Hi everyone and welcome back. This is the third video of our Laravel series. Today we're going to make a page that will display all the records in this stock category table, and let's examine it carefully. We have an ID column, description, type, stock account, created at, and updated at. Now to start, I have cloned a fresh copy of the boilerplate for our application. Okay, so let's examine the stock category controller that came with this Laravel application. Normally, a controller comes with 6 methods: index, create, store, show, edit, and update and destroy. Yeah, I think that was that's 7. First, let's check on the index. It says here that this method displays a listing of the resource. Now, whenever you would like to retrieve all the values of your resource or your table, then the index is the way to go. So what happens here is we fetch all records in stock category, and then we call on inertia to render the stock categories index or the index file under the stock category, which is located under resource or resources, and then pages and stock categories. And here is the index. Okay. Together, we are going to pass a variable called stock categories, which will contain an array of stock categories. So I know for a fact that when I fetch the records here, there might be one or zero or more records in it. That's why I use the plural form. So there should be many stock categories in it. Okay? Before that, how could I invoke this method of the stock category controller? Let's examine the router or the root. I just checked the web. It says root. And yeah, on line 38, it says we created a root resource that will call on the stock category controller, and the name of that root is SC. So what does this mean? According to the documentation, if you declare a root similar to this one, this single root declaration creates multiple roots to handle a variety of actions of the resource. So which means if those 7 actions or method like the index, create, up to destroy, those can be invoked by providing this URI in combination with the verb. So that means if, for example, if I would like to access the index, then I will have to say slash photos and make use of the verb get. If I would like to store, to invoke the store method or store action, I will have the same URI, but I will be using a verb post, and that will post all those data to your store method. So remember, you have different verbs that you can use like get, post, put, patch, and delete. Okay, so the most complex one is this. That means the URI is photos slash, and then this is a variable that will be passed on as a parameter, and it should end with the word slash edit. Okay, if this is the URI, then you will be invoking the edit method of that particular controller. Okay, so that sounds difficult at this point. So let's go ahead and check what does this table mean. So if I would say slash sc, then this particular method will be invoked. And in return, it will call the index page under the stock categories folder. And let's go there. And here we are now going to build a view page. Okay, so let me just get to my dashboard and copy all of it, Control A and C, and then paste everything under in my index. All right. Let's check that out first. Right. So under the SC, I have the same dashboard. I have the same output with that of my dashboard. Now I'm gonna retain the first two lines and replace this your login with a table. So that the table will be here, table here. Okay, so what I will do is I'll go ahead to Google and look for some Tailwind CSS, no, Tailwind simple table. Okay, so let's check this one. We have tables. Yeah, this one we have simple table, right? So let's use the gray one. Let's show the code, and I'm gonna copy that portion from table line number 5, table up to table. I code folded it so you could see 5 to 35. So I'll just copy that one and then get back to my code and paste it here. Okay, so there is your table. Yeah, so this is the opening table and then the closing table. Okay, so let's check. Okay, so that looks good. When you have a template like this, the next thing that you are going to do obviously is to change the columns so that it will reflect the ID, description, the type, and the stock account, and as well as add one more column for the date created. And if you look at it, there are 3 rows in it. All are repeated. We actually need only one row as our template. The rest we will have to remove because this part, this row, which is equivalent to TR in HTML, will be repeated over and over depending on the number of records that we have. So here we have 20 records, I suppose, and this particular row here will be repeated also 20 times using a for loop. Let's go ahead and remove the extra 2 rows and change the columns as well. Okay, so the 2 rows are here. Yeah, so let me zoom that. So this is the first row. We will retain that and remove the 2 extra rows. Okay. And for the heading, we will have to modify it accordingly. If you can still remember, that is ID, description, type, and stock account. So it lacks one more column, copy and paste. And this should be date created. All right, so the same thing, we will do that with the row for the data. Save and refresh. Check. Okay, so now remember that our stock controller is passing a variable called stock categories. We could actually see that here under the view tools, Control Shift I, so that it will be opened. And then look at here, I have a extension called view, which will show us the variables that I need. Okay, so what is that view? This is the Vue.js development tools. Make sure that you install here the one that supports version 3. Okay, Vue.js development tools, and then you just have to install that as an extension of the development, as an extension of the Chrome, and you will be provided with this tool. So what does this give me? Okay, so if I click on this index and then um, yeah, index, because I'm at the index page, I could see here, let me close that one, that I am provided with stock categories, right? So if you expand that, okay, so this is an array of 20 objects, and each object that we have the following elements. So created at, description, ID, stock account, the type, and updated at. So each of them have identical set of elements, no? Or the set of attributes or properties. So what we are going to do, since this is already here, we would like this array of stock categories be displayed in this table. So we need something that could iterate over these stock categories. So let's check what Vue.js could offer us. Under the list rendering, we have V4. Okay, so we have here V4, which allows you to iterate over an array, and the syntax requires you to have that in this form. So you should have an item in items. So the items is the stock categories. This is the collection. It's in plural form. That's the reason why we use plural for collection of items. So we will have stock in stock categories, or I'm sorry, stock category in stock categories. To do that, you just have to use this directive inside the tag that needs to be repeated. In that case, that's the tr. So what will happen is b-4 is equals to, we will have something like item and in items, or item in stock categories, and then display the elements using the mustache template. Okay, so let's do that in our code. So let's head on to our index.view. So we say, so this is the part of the table that will be repeated over and over again depending on the number of records. So here I'm going to put the directive v4. Okay, and let's say item in stock categories. Right? So how did I know that it is stock categories? If you look at the VIF, the name is stock categories. And then each item here will be placed in a mustache. The first item is called item dot ID. Let me just copy that here. So this ID, description, type, stock category. Oh no. Stock account, and created at. Okay, so let's check. So never mind never mind if you have a line like that. It doesn't mean that it's syntax error. It's only that the Vitor highlighter, code highlighter is not intelligent enough. Okay, so let's save that and then check with our browser. Now we have an empty table, and the reason for that is because we did not actually receive the stock categories variable coming from the controller. So we will use props for that. So how do we pass variables from the controller to a view page? So on the left side we have the view page, and on the right side we have the controller. So right here we have the stock categories that is being passed on when we render the index. Now how do we pass this? Right here is we need to add a props under the script. Okay, so inside the export default, so you have to put here a props colon and open and close curly bracket, and inside it you will define the props or the variables that you will be receiving coming from the controller. So we will name it as stock categories. Okay, so stock categories, and the type is array. Okay, so it could be an array, it could be an object if it's a single entity, it could be a string or integer if it's a primitive data. But for now, we know that it's an array because in fact it says here it's an array of 20 elements. All right, so we are expecting to receive an array. So that's why in the receiver portion, which is declared under the props, we should have that as an array. So this stock category is the same thing that will be passed on here. Okay, so let me grab that screen and show you what happens. So from here, the stock categories here from your controller will be passed on right here. This is the recipient variable under the props, and anything that is received from the props can be used inside your template as like this. Okay, every element of your array stock categories is placed in the item, and each item you can now print the elements of it. Right, so that's how it goes. So from controller to your props, and then your props, you can use that in your template where you could render it on screen. Okay, so let's check this time. So save and then render the browser. There you go. So you have 20 records of your stock categories. Okay, that's it for the index, and I'll see you later for the create method.